Let's talk about something we literally walk all over every single day but probably don't think about nearly enough: the ground right under our feet. Turns out it's a world just as complex and vital as any rainforest or coral reef. Today, we're giving this unsung hero the spotlight.
So I want to start by asking a question that kind of flips the script. What if that stuff we just call dirt is actually one of the most precious, living resources on the entire planet? It's a huge shift in how we think about it, but it's absolutely key to understanding what's at stake here.
Because, well, that's exactly what soil is. It's not just rocks and sand. It is a living, breathing community. It is the foundation for pretty much every single ecosystem on land, and it is just teeming with this incredible web of organisms that make all of our lives possible.
And if you could take a slice out of the ground like a piece of cake, you'd see it's not all one thing. It's built in these different layers called horizons. You've got the organic stuff, leaves and twigs, right at the top. Then you go down through the rich topsoil and subsoil, all the way until you hit solid bedrock at the bottom. And each of these layers has its own special job to do.
Okay, so we get it. It's this incredibly complex, living foundation, but what does it actually do for us?
Well, as it turns out, it provides some of the most essential services for life on Earth.
I mean, just look at its resume. Soil has at least 6 critical jobs. First, it's the bedrock of all our agriculture, right? It's where our food comes from. It's also a master recycler, cycling nutrients for all of life. It acts like a giant natural filter, purifying our water, and like a sponge, soaking up rain to prevent floods. It even gives us the clay we use for things like bricks. And, this one's huge, it stores massive amounts of carbon, which helps regulate our climate. It's a real workhorse.
But, like any hero in a good story, this living foundation of ours is facing some really serious threats. The very resource that keeps us alive is in danger, and it's a problem we really need to wrap our heads around.
So, let's meet the two main villains in this story: soil erosion and desertification. Basically, soil erosion is when that precious topsoil literally gets washed or blown away. And desertification is when good, productive land, especially in dry areas, gets degraded and slowly turns into desert.
So, what's causing all this erosion? Well, a lot of the time, it comes down to 3 main things that we do. There's overcultivation, farming so intensively that the soil is left bare and vulnerable. There's overgrazing, where animals eat up the protective plant cover way too fast. And then there's deforestation, which removes the very tree roots that act like a net holding the soil together. And the scary thing is, it escalates. It's a chain reaction. It might start small with something called splash erosion, where a single raindrop hits the ground and just shatters the soil structure. That clogs things up, so water starts to run off in a thin layer, creating sheet erosion that just peels away that top surface. And eventually, that water finds a path, it concentrates, and it starts carving out deep channels, or gullies, carrying away tons and tons of soil. It's a devastating domino effect.
Okay, so that's the problem. And yeah, it is a serious one, but the story absolutely does not end there. The good news is we have the tools, we have the knowledge to fight back and to save our soil. So let's dive into the solutions.
One of the most powerful ideas out there is something called agroforestry. And the concept is actually pretty simple but brilliant. Instead of chopping down all the trees to make a farm, you actually integrate them into the farm. You're basically creating a farm that works a lot more like a natural, healthy forest.
And check this out. This is what it actually looks like. This is a system in Haiti. See how the crops are growing in neat rows right between the trees? Those trees hold the soil in place with their roots, they enrich it with falling leaves, and they create a better environment for the crops. It's a total win-win situation.
So what do you do when you're farming on a hill? Water just wants to run straight down, right? Well, there are 2 classic techniques for this. On gentler slopes, you can use contour farming. That just means you plow across the slope, not up and down. Those little ridges you create act like tiny dams. For steeper hills, you got to go a step further with terracing, building these wide, level steps into the hillside. Both of them are designed to do the same thing: slow the water down.
Here's another real game changer: no-till farming. For centuries, we thought plowing was essential, but plowing churns up the soil and leaves it exposed. No-till does the exact opposite. You leave the leftovers from the last crop on the field, and you plant the new seeds right through that cover. The key is, the soil is never left bare. This is huge for stopping erosion, and it also helps the soil hold more water.
We can also manage water more directly, especially where it's already started to form those gullies we talked about. And that's where check dams come into play. They're basically just small barriers built across a stream or a channel. They're not meant to stop the water completely, just to slow it down, so it drops all the soil it's carrying and has a chance to soak back into the earth.
And the really cool thing is, they don't have to be some massive, complicated engineering project. Sure, a check dam can be a formal concrete structure, but it can also be as simple as a well-placed pile of rocks. Both are incredibly effective at healing those gullies and getting water back into the ground where it belongs.
So, we've looked at what soil is, the massive threats it's up against, and some of the really smart ways we can protect it, but let's bring this all home. Why is this so incredibly urgent? What is the one thing you should really take away from all this?
I want you to just look at this number for a second. 100. 100 years. Let that sink in, because it's the key to understanding just how fragile and precious this resource really is. Why that number? Because under the best of natural conditions, it can take a full century, 100 years, to form a single inch of topsoil. 1 inch. An amount we can lose in a single heavy rainstorm if the land isn't protected. When you think about it that way, you realize soil is basically a non-renewable resource in our lifetime.
And that really brings us to the final question, doesn't it? Soil is the living, breathing foundation of our entire world. It's the silent hero working tirelessly right under our feet. So, knowing how incredibly slowly it's made and how frighteningly fast it can be lost, the question isn't really if we should protect it anymore. The real question is, how are we going to choose to do it?